All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us for our monthly webinar this afternoon. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. As you know, if you've been to other webinars before, we do these monthly webinars, and they're super informative, and they're great information, kind of hearing about all different aspects of sudden cardiac arrest and AEDs and CPR. And today we have a really two really special guests that I'm excited to chat with and for you all to hear from. And the topic is how a mother and daughter are both working to save lives from sudden cardiac arrest. So before I introduce them, I just want to do a couple quick housekeeping things. If you have any questions as we go, there's a chat or a Q&A box, I'm sorry, Q&A box at the bottom. If you could put the questions in the Q&A, we will answer them at the end. And then the other thing is we are recording this webinar, so you will have a chance to share it with others if they weren't able to make it today. So we will edit it and it will show up on our YouTube channel and you'll have a chance to share it. So now just want to introduce our guests. We have Jennifer Sarmento, who is the Executive Director of the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, and Allison Taylor, who is a Sales Coordinator with me here at Defibtech. So thank you both for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so do you all want to give a little intro kind of about yourselves first, and then we'll kind of get into the discussion?
Sure.
Cool.
Allison,
So yeah.
first.
All right,
Go ahead,
Allison.
Yeah, so as Mike mentioned, I'm Allison. I am the sales coordinator at Defibtech. I've been with Defibtech for actually a year today. Started 1 year ago on June 20th, so it's kind of funny. But I'm also a board member of the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, and Kyle's sister, most importantly.
Yeah, and so I'm Jennifer Sarmento. I'm the executive director, one of the founders of the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, and also Allison's mom. So we started our foundation, almost 6 years ago now, in honor of Kyle. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think we should start there. Do you want to share the story, share the background of what made you start the organization?
Sure. Let me have a little slide here of pick of Kyle. Cool. I'll show you. Yeah, so just to give you guys a little bit of background about our story. So this is my son, Kyle Taylor. In February of 2018, February 22nd, 2018, he was an 18-year-old college freshman attending a local community college here in our area. And the day of his cardiac arrest, he went to school and came home and raided our refrigerator as he always did after school. And has a friend that lives over in Santa Cruz area, which is about 30 minutes from where we live. And, informed me, Mom, I'm going to go hang out over there tonight. I don't have school tomorrow. We're going to just play some video games, some Fortnite. I'm going to hang out and just spend the night over there. And so he left to go do that and said, I'll be home in the morning. And no signs at all that what our rest of that day was going to kind of happen. And so later that evening, Allison was at home, probably doing homework or something. She was in high school at the time. And I was out for a walk with some friends of mine. And one of Kyle's friends called me on my cell phone to tell me that they had found Kyle collapsed and not breathing in another room of the house. And he was being rushed to the local hospital in Santa Cruz. And it wasn't until I got to the hospital and after talking to many doctors and nurses, that I heard the word sudden cardiac arrest. And I had no idea that was even a thing for seemingly healthy young adults. I kept saying, my son didn't have a heart attack, and not knowing that sudden cardiac arrest and heart attacks are two completely different things at the time. And so that was February 22nd, and we spent a couple days in the ICU. And on February 24th, 2018, they informed us that Kyle was not going to survive, that he had been down too long without any oxygen. And even though his friends performed CPR on him, it wasn't enough to save him. So he passed away on February 24th, 2018, at the age of 18, just less than a month shy of his 19th birthday in March. So So we decided pretty early on that we wanted to do something to honor Kyle. And once I started looking into what cardiac arrest was and seeing all the information that popped up, and I had no idea about any of it. That's kind of how our foundation kind of started, was that we knew that's what we needed to do. We needed to bring awareness to sudden cardiac arrest in youth in our community. And so I think a couple months after Kyle passed, we started working on creating a foundation in his honor. And so our foundation really focuses on three things. So we do heart screenings out in our community, and then we also do AED donation. We do quite a bit of AED donations to sports programs, youth sports programs, high school, middle school programs, so they can have a portable AED to take out onto the fields or wherever they're going. And then we also do CPR and AED training. And so since that point, since we started, we have screened almost 6,000 youth in our community. We've identified over about 50 that have an underlying issue of some kind. We've donated almost 42, I think we're at 42 now, AEDs to various programs and issues. And I think we've trained about 2,300 people in CPR and AED. So it's mind-boggling that in 6 years we've done all that in his honor, but that's just kind of how it started.
That's awesome. So one thing that you mentioned, you know, you talk about like the three main things that you do, which I want to get into more of, but I think one thing that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of the work that you're doing is you kind of mentioned like you had never thought that sudden cardiac arrest could be a thing. And I think like the whole like awareness piece of like what you do is equally as important as all the actual other work that you're doing. So I don't know if you could talk to that just a little bit, like, you know, you know, similar to a lot of families that have been affected, you know, you don't know. And it's just, you know, some things you've done maybe to raise some awareness or you know, or just talk about like the importance of just that awareness of just parents or people knowing the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack, or knowing that cardiac arrest can affect, you know, young, seemingly healthy people that are athletes.
Yeah. So I think, you know, one is just sharing his story, right? That's a big thing. It's just that sharing his story brings awareness to it. But we also do a lot of speaking engagements to go out to schools or organizations to share our story and what's happening. You know, we've had parents come to us, you know, not knowing why, for example, a screening is important, you know, why that's important. And so we share that information as much as we can, and just anybody that'll listen, I'll share, you know. So, and I think in the recent, you know, couple of years, we've had, you know, some national awareness of some things that have happened. And so I think that has helped our mission of what we're doing, because we get more questions to us about, you know, oh, well, that makes sense. That's why they're doing that. So, but a lot of people, just like me, had no idea, you know, that this was even a thing. Especially the parents that we've identified their child with something. They were like, we had no idea, right? So, and just having other people share it, I think has brought a big awareness. So I don't know if Allison has another.
Yeah, I was just going to add another thing too that I think is really important that a lot of times people kind of forget about. You know, we try to bring a lot of awareness to AEDs and CPR, which is super important. But another thing that's kind of overlooked and just as important is teaching people what it looks like when someone's in cardiac arrest. Trying to help people to kind of realize what it is and when they do need to respond. So just really talking with people through, you know, it might look like they're having a seizure, or, you know, their eyes might still be open, but that doesn't mean that they don't need help. So I think that's just another really important thing, is just we try to teach people and talk to people about the very, very beginning, when someone goes down, what to look for. And, you know, when in doubt, just call 911, get the AED, all that good stuff. So just really try to teach that as well.
Yeah, that's like really good point. Because I think that's still something that's probably not understood well enough, you know, and even between, you know, all of us, we're talking about this like stuff every single day, but I still think there's like confusion about like what sudden cardiac arrest looks like. And Allison, you said like, I think the confusion of like a seizure, or like there could be some arm movement, And if there
Yeah.
is arm movement, that doesn't necessarily mean someone doesn't need CPR. Like if they're not responding to you, and the way I always explain it to people is if someone's unresponsive, my brain is like going towards they need CPR. So I think that's a really important piece. But I know, Allison, obviously this is, you have a side of this story as well, and I'm not surprised to hear you were doing your homework, knowing how good of how hard of a worker you are. But yeah, I'd love to hear kind of your perspective of just whether it's that day or kind of what your role with the organization was early on.
Yeah, definitely. So as my mom mentioned, I was still in high school at the time. So when everything happened, I actually, yeah, I was kind of hands off at the beginning. Everyone kind of grieves differently, and my way was just pretending that it never happened and not talking about it, not really wanting to face the fact that it had happened. So I would say the first year or so, I wasn't very involved in the foundation. I didn't really go to anything. I thought it was amazing and a great idea and really important, but I didn't really want to be too involved. And then I would say probably my senior year of high school, I started to get involved, kind of go to more things, kind of do my part in the foundation. And then I decided to leave the state for college. So that kind of brought another little barrier. It was obviously it's hard to do all of the hands-on stuff when you're states away. I still was involved in the ways that I could, kind of helping with some online stuff, some social media, just still trying to do what I could, go to some events. But then that was for 4 years, so I was not super hands-on. And then I decided to stay in Colorado instead of going back to California. So once I graduated college, I got connected with Defibtech through Mike and Parent Heart Watch, which is the national voice for youth cardiac arrest. So that's how I met Mike and kind of got plugged into Defibtech, which has been really fulfilling for me because, again, I'm not always doing the hands-on stuff for our foundation. I'm still as involved as I can, but having this kind of different avenue to still be in the cardiac arrest community and still really trying to help people just in a little bit of a different way has been really awesome for me. And it's just, I feel really lucky because a lot of people, a job is a job, but for me, it's like, it's my passion. So I feel really lucky that, yeah, it's kind of my whole life. It's my job. It's my after job. It's like, everything. But yeah, that's kind of my story, how I ended up here. And
well, I can speak for everybody. We're very lucky to have you as part of the team. Because I do think there is like built-in passion, obviously, which is amazing. So I can't believe it's your 1 year anniversary of being here, and yeah, you've done such a good job.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that's so interesting. Like, did you think so obviously college is like this like super like stressful kind of like confusing time in your life anyway, but was there a point in your in time where you're like, wow, like maybe I could actually just like kind of make a career out of being involved in this space in some way?
It's really funny you asked that because I don't think there was ever a point. When I went to college, I majored in exercise science. My goal was to be an athletic trainer. That quickly was not my goal anymore. I kind of changed a handful of times. So it was never really my goal. Even my senior year, I really didn't know what the heck I was going to do when I graduated, which I think so many people can relate to. So if anyone is that age listening to this, don't stress, it'll work out. But it's really amazing. I feel like since losing Kyle, there's been so many little things in my life that he kind of has had a hand in. And my job is one of the biggest. So it was never something I thought I would do or even really knew was a career. But it kind of just happened and, almost kind of fell in my lap. And I feel like it was what I was meant to do. So it wasn't what I thought I would do, but it's what I am supposed to be doing, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and you don't know, and now you're in it, and it's like you see like the impact that you're having, just from, and now you kind of have both sides, right? You kind of are impacting from like you work for an AED manufacturer, and then you also are impacting it from the nonprofit awareness screening donation, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, so I'll talk a little bit more about the organization, some of what, like, I think the three main pieces that you talked about, we should touch on all of those. So you guys have done a lot of work with screening and like a lot of work, like not only doing screenings, but also, from like a policy legislation standpoint. So yeah, do you want to talk to that?
Sure. So yeah, so when we first started screenings, we just kind of just decided just to do community style screenings.
Mhm.
And then about 2 years ago, decided we had heard from another nonprofit in Florida that was working with districts that were mandating heart screenings, who we play for. And I thought, well, they're doing that in Florida. Why are we not doing that in California? Right? We've got more student athletes and students than any state. So why are we not doing that? And so we worked with our school district that Allison and her brother Kyle went to school in. Because they obviously Kyle was in that district, but they also lost 5 other former students to sudden cardiac arrest. And just to give you an idea, the school district is 5 high schools, so it's not huge. But they lost 5 other students, including Kyle. And so we went to them and said, "This is what you should be doing. This should be mandated as part of their pre-participation physicals, not just the basic physicals that they're required right now. You should also add the heart screening component to it." And so that June, it was approved by their school district, and by August we were in their schools screening their student athletes. So we just finished the second school year with them, where we screen 9th and 11th graders as a requirement. And then we just brought on another school district that we will start in the fall. So we have the first 2 public school districts in the state of California that now require heart screenings as part of their pre-participation physical. And then we also have, we're starting into July with a community college that they're now going to require it of their athletes because they had 2 student athletes that had cardiac issues. And so they're the first community college in the state to require it. So we're pretty honored that we're the ones that have kind of started that and initiated that in the state. And we've gotten a lot of interest in it now to do it. We just need to figure out how we're going to expand it, but there's definitely a need and a want for it. And just earlier this week, I was in Sacramento, meeting with some assembly people, state senators and assembly members, talking about this. And, there sounds like there's some interest, but, I think it's a long time before we get it statewide mandated, but we'll continue working with the school districts until we can, get that done. So.
That's awesome. I feel like just because, again, we have so much awareness, but like, why is, I guess two questions. How simple is an EKG to like it's a simple test. Like it's a very easy test to get. It's not something that feel like when you hear you're getting your heart check, people get like super nervous, but it's like very simple.
Right. Yeah, we get that a lot, right? Especially from teenagers, right? They come in and they think we're going to hurt them, because it's got, electrocardiogram. They think they're going to get electrocuted or something. Just because they never had one, they don't know. And so that's definitely part of our awareness and education piece of what that is. And so we do a 12 lead EKG on the kids, a non-invasive, no, they don't feel anything. And so, obviously that's more important. That's important because our basic physicals, that the kids miss about 85% of the issues that cause cardiac arrest because a stethoscope misses it. You can't be heard on a stethoscope and 200-year-old technology. So we add that extra layer of the EKG, and if we can, do an echo as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and then the other piece of it too, I think, is I think sometimes there's this fear of knowledge, right? There's the fear of knowing, which is bizarre to me. But hey, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or
Well, I think it's not wanting to know, or parents assume that my kid's healthy. They've not had any symptoms. Why would I get them a heart screening, right? And so we, 3 of us, I know, being in this sudden cardiac arrest community, we know many families that was their first symptom, was the cardiac arrest, right? And so, and Kyle was seemingly healthy kid, and I know many others that were seemingly healthy young adults. And so, I think it's the not wanting to know, but I think it's not understanding the importance of it, because like me, before this happened, I figured Kyle's physicals he was getting every year was adequate enough. I thought,
Yeah.
they listened to his heart's fine, right? So it's trying to educate those people that no, that actually is not enough, that you should have an EKG done. But we still get those people that, unfortunately don't see the value in what we're doing. And, that's the unfortunate part of this, but we just keep moving forward, and we have so many people that do understand the importance of it. And so we just try to focus on those.
Yeah.
But it's again, just trying to bring awareness of why it's important to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it goes back to that. It's like, that's a huge piece of it, right? You're like kind of providing like a newer test or a newer thing. So like the education piece is like helping parents understand why this is important is so good.
Right.
And the other thing I just want to add in, like, I know that, I've seen is like people are afraid to know because they're like, oh, like if I have something wrong with my heart, I can't play, basketball anymore or whatever it is. And it's not so like black and white like that anymore. I'm certainly not a medical professional, but you can potentially still play. It's knowing that you have a heart disease is very important, right? Because then it can be treated.
Yeah, and that's we get that question a lot. Well, what if you identify something? What happens? It's like, well, there's so many different things could be identified. There's not a one size fits all answer to that, right? So, there's electrical issues, structural issues, those types of things. So it depends. And so I always tell people, just because we identify something doesn't mean that they will be pulled from sports, right? Or maybe be limited, or maybe like for an electrical issue, right? They could get an ablation and then be back playing, go back to their normal lives. So I think trying to break that myth as well, that, oh my gosh, my kid's going to be pulled or not be able to do the things that they want to do. And, but I know people that have been identified haven't been able to do something, but they found another way to be involved in a different way. Like there's a young man that survived sudden cardiac arrest in our community who's a basketball player, and he collapsed playing basketball. He now, helps at basketball camps and helps coach youth basketball. And now he's taken up golf. So, he's still trying to be athletic and be active in things. And so he's just trying to find a different way of doing it. And so, but I get that it's scary, but to me, the unknown is scarier, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like, it's really understandable. I feel like everyone, whether it's heart disease or any other medical issue, it's always scary, like going to the doctor or making that appointment, because you just don't want to hear that something's wrong with you. But especially with, heart issues and cardiac arrest, it's like knowledge is really power with that. And if you know something's wrong, then you can prevent, anything actually happening. So it's important, but yeah, it's understandable that it's scary, and especially, youth and stuff, they don't want their lives to be altered in any way. They just want to win the state championship or whatever it is. So it's understandable, but it's just,
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, the way I look at it is like, we know that a lot of things have to go really well for someone to survive cardiac arrest. And, plus, so like if we can detect some of these things, you're right, you're not going to necessarily detect everything. It's not possible, but like, if we can detect some of these things before the person's in that situation, it just, it improves survival rates.
And that's what I tell people, right? There's nothing in the medical field, in any type of medical, that's 100%, right? So this is just giving you an extra layer. Could we possibly miss it and something, God forbid, happen? Yes, that could. But so then you don't want to do that just in case that you get the false positive or whatever's. But, again, people are going to do what they need to do is best for their child. But we do tell people that there's nothing in the medical field, whether it's heart related, anything, that's 100%. So
exactly. Such a good point. Cool. Yeah. So let's talk about AEDs, and you officially have like an AED expert now on the team. Allison's, so. Yeah,
I use her quite a bit for that too. I'll call her sometimes and ask her questions. So I got a built-in expert.
That's that. You need an expert. So, and now you have one. So, so I know you mentioned you're working a lot with like sports and stuff. So, if you want to talk to kind of like who places you donate to, and why you think it's important for those people to be getting AEDs.
Yeah. So what we decided to do when we decided to do AED donation was, one of the things that we heard was many schools, schools have like here in the state of California, they're required to have at least one AED if you provide interscholastic sports. Okay. You have to have it within like 2 minutes, I think, is from the field. Well, some of our high schools are gigantic. So, 2 minutes, is that 2 minutes running? Is that 2 minutes driving? Like, where is that, and how do you only have one if you've got a baseball field on one side and you got the football field over here and then you got the gym and the basketball court way over there? Where do you put that, right? Or it's in the nurse's office where it's locked up after school, right? That's the biggest one we've heard. And so we decided we wanted to do portable AEDs. So we do the Defibtech AEDs and we get a bag for them or a case so they can take it onto those fields with them. The other thing that we've heard a lot from coaches and athletic directors when we were starting this was, hey, we go to an away game on a Friday night for a football game and the school's closed down. Maybe that school doesn't provide an athletic trainer. We don't have access at all to an AED. So it was kind of those things that we wanted to provide that extra step, that what our goal is to eventually have AEDs just be part of like the equipment that you take out to the fields every day, right? You take a first aid kit, you take all those different things. That AED should just be a part of that package that goes with you wherever you go, either on the practice field, an away game, a home game, whatever. So we pretty much primarily focus on high schools, middle schools, and youth sports programs. So we've done some that aren't sports related, but mass majority of the ones that we have done are usually sports related. And then just last couple months, we partnered with the San Francisco 49ers Foundation. And we worked with them to donate about 20 AEDs out into our community, and they were specifically sports programs as well. And we're hoping to continue that partnership with them to continue putting those out there to schools that maybe not even have the funding to have one, right? So that's been pretty successful too, because we had a huge amount of people apply for it. So we know there's a need for them to have the portable AEDs if they need them.
Awesome. And like, yeah, so Allison, so you kind of, you're seeing it now, you see a lot from the community side, I guess. Just like seeing like being involved from like the community, seeing a need, that must help you, right? In your like day-to-day job too, with like the Defibtech, because you kind of are aware of really what's going on out there in communities.
Totally, yeah. There's definitely a big need. A lot of misconceptions about AEDs still that I hear all the time. So just trying again, bringing up the education and awareness again is really something that I try to do on, both sides with the foundation and at Defibtech, is just really trying to not just give people an AED or sell an AED to a customer, but when doing so, like really making sure they understand how to use it, where are they going to be putting these, just making sure that they feel well prepared as well. A lot of times I hear things like, I'm scared that I'm going to hurt someone, or that, people are just a little weary of AEDs still. So always just trying to make them feel more comfortable, show them how easy they are, how smart they are, that they're not going to hurt people. They're there to help. So that's really what I've been trying to do. Obviously getting people the AEDs it's necessary. It's so important, but also making sure that they have all of those other points and know how to use it and where it is just as important, if not more important.
Yeah. And I think the other piece too I wanted to add too is, like Allison said, right, how to use it, but it's like making sure that the schools or the organization that you work with have a cardiac emergency response plan in place, right? So who's going to go get it, who's going to do what, when, if that happens, right? So that's another thing that we try to do with some of the schools that we work with, make sure that not only do they have one in writing, but they're actually actively practicing it. And we've offered to help write it if they need that kind of thing too. And obviously the AED is a huge piece of that emergency response plan. So
that's huge. I mean, I think we just like looked at like getting an AED is a great like first step, and then there's got to be like so much other stuff that happens, right? Because we want to make sure that it's utilized properly and quickly if it's needed. Cool. And then do you want to talk a little bit too? Like I know training as well, you mentioned is a piece of what you're doing, and I think there's like all different like levels to training, right? Some people take like these certification classes, which are great. Some people just are like going to awareness events, which is also great. And maybe some of the key points that you kind of focus on when you're doing a training with a group. The big takeaways responding to cardiac arrest.
Yeah, so we kind of have two ways that we do it. So at all of our screenings, we do a quick demo with the kids or their parents, if their parents are with them, to do a quick demonstration of hands-only CPR. And we
Mhm.
kind of go through the steps of, the steps that they tell you, check the scene, see if they're, if they're alert or breathing, kind of quickly go through those steps with them and then show them hands-only CPR. And the other one is we do certifications through the American Red Cross. So myself and my husband are also instructors, American Red Cross instructors. And so I think one of the things that we focus on is, like Allison said earlier, like what sudden cardiac arrest looks like, right? Because you can say that word and you can say, yeah, it's sudden, somebody suddenly goes down, but how it looks, somebody may sound, I've heard stories of people say, oh, I didn't know it was cardiac arrest because they were breathing. Well, it wasn't normal breathing, right? It was gasping kind of air. And so people assume that. So like sharing those types of things, I think is one of the things that we focus on a lot of. And then just, obviously we want people to be certified doing it correctly, but sometimes I think people get so caught up in the, oh my God, I have to do, 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions. And if I do 35, I'm messing it up or I'm going to hurt this person, whatever. Like we tell people it's better to do something than nothing. So yeah, you may panic when it happens, but just remember the steps, as we all know, the call, push, shock, right? Call for help, push for compressions and shock for an AED, right? If you can remember those steps, you're helping somebody. So I think that's kind of the area. And then obviously the steps that we're required as, certification instructors that we have to do. But I think that's the additional step of what exactly it looks like, what can happen, and that kind of thing. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, two things. I know we talked about this a little bit before, but yeah, definitely the like being able to recognize sudden cardiac arrest. You brought up the breathing thing. I think that's really important, right? And it's like, as lay respirators, we don't need to spend like a ton of time. Like we want to make a really quick decision, right? Because the quicker we can do CPR, quicker we, deploy the AED, the better. But I think that's so good. Like I just think it's like being out there in communities and educating people about that. Whether it's a certification, which it's cool if you get certified, and it's also cool if you don't. Like I just think any sort of awareness is just like really important.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the other things we tell people too, right? If you know CPR but you're not certified, you can still jump in to help somebody. You don't have to have that little card that says you're certified for 2 years to jump in and help somebody. And I think the other thing that we try to share too that I kind of forgot about is letting people know that there's Good Samaritan laws, right? So people are always worried about getting in trouble if they don't do it correctly, or God forbid that person doesn't survive. There's Good Samaritan laws that protect you from that. So don't be afraid to jump in if you see somebody go down.
Yeah. One thing I'll add too is just that everyone can do something. So at one of our screenings the other day, there was a really young kid, couldn't have been older than 4. And obviously a 4-year-old probably isn't going to be able to administer like the best CPR, but we told them, why don't you be responsible for calling 911? Like even a 4-year-old can do that, or they can, this is what an AED looks like. Make sure you just grab that. So everyone can help, and it's necessary for everyone to help when cardiac arrest happens. So just want to point that out as well. You're never too young, too old, too small, too big to help.
Yeah. So it's a great point too. And I think like anything in life, like the younger you learn like a skill, the more comfortable you are with it. Right. So even like for that 4-year-old, if they're just like seeing CPR, they're hearing about calling 911, they're looking at an AED trainer, they're just more comfortable with that than like when you get introduced something new when you're, I don't know, like an adult, it's just harder to be comfortable and super. So it's good to teach young people, I think.
Right. Well, and especially at that age too, right? You hear that they're like a sponge, right? They take in. That's why it's good to teach them a foreign language when they're little or whatever. So, like if you start them at a young age, teaching them, call for shock or call 911 or know what an AED looks like. That'll be ingrained in their head for the rest of their lives, hopefully, and that could help somebody. So.
Cool. Awesome. So, all right. So I want to talk a little bit more about the organization, and you guys, I know this because I see them all with you at Parent Heart Watch, but you guys have like a big group of Kyle's friends that are very heavily involved. And I'll tell everybody the story is that like this Parent Heart Watch conference every year there's Kyle J. Taylor Foundation always has the most representatives, I would say, compared to the other organizations. And they're always whenever you're announced, they make you got a huge round of applause, which is really cool. But it's just really cool to have them involved. If you want to just talk to like that process of how it was getting them involved, was it something they approached you about, or how that goes?
Yeah, so I will mention, just you talked about the roaring applause. They just do that to embarrass me.
Yeah.
So, and because every time I tell them, please don't do it, please don't, and they do it. Yeah. Majority of our team are Kyle's friends. Kyle was very lucky to be surrounded by a wonderful group of men and women that he grew up. I want to say boys and girls, but they're all 25, 26 years old anymore, so I don't think they want boys and girls. But and Allison too. Both of my kids have surrounded themselves by some wonderful friends, and so when we started, it was just the three of us, and so little by little, they would come and help and do things, and so they came to us and said, "We want to get involved. What can we do?" And so it just kind of has evolved from that. And so all of them kind of have their own job that they do, from their own experience or their interests. And so, I think for them, it helps them deal with losing Kyle too, right? It's a way to help them deal with their grief. And they really are family to us. They're, Allison, we joke now, she's got like 10 brothers and sisters now that are looking after her because they're all Kyle's friends, right? So we love that they're part of it and they want to be a part of it. And, and they love going to Heart every year. So,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And every time we leave that, right, they walk out so motivated to do more stuff. And we have a brainstorming meeting after that thing. And it's almost, I think last time it was almost a couple hour meeting because we were just sharing everything that we learned and what could we do and do that thing. So I definitely, without all of that help, we definitely could not have grown the way we have. I think we still would have just been a little small, doing some few community screenings, that type of thing. And so having their help in different areas has been such a tremendous help to us. And we are honored that they wanted to be a part of it.
It's really cool. Yeah. They seem like a great group of people. I've gotten to know, I feel like, a bunch of them just from, the last few years going and meeting them.
No, they're great. And some of them I've literally known since they were like 5 or 6 years old. So for them to be a part of what we're doing, and even one of Kyle's friends, he always wanted to be a doctor, but then after losing Kyle, he's decided he wants to be a pediatric cardiologist. So,
wow.
He's in medical school right now doing that, and he's also on our team as well. So does stuff as well. Yeah. So he's trying to make an impact that way as well. So yeah, it's a great group of guys and girls that are on our team, and then we have a couple extra people, some of my girlfriends who have joined to help, and so but yeah, it's great.
That's cool. And then I also want to talk about, you guys have like in California, and I'm like a coalition of like that are focusing on screening, right? Like a group of organizations that are all kind of working together to promote screening.
Yeah. So it's not just screening. So it's called the California Youth Heart Coalition.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's screenings. It's so there's, obviously state of California is pretty large. There's a lot of foundations.
Pretty large.
And there was a few up here in Northern California, and then there's quite a bit down in Los Angeles, San Diego area. And so most of the things that have happened in our state have laws, because they've been doing this for so long, like Eric Prada Save a Life, right? Most of the stuff that policy wise or laws being passed in our state, they really had started, but they started coming to us wanting our help or our endorsement of type things. And so we got together a couple of foundations, actually one of the Heart to Hearts, and said, why don't we start like a coalition of all of us? So instead of being all these individual foundations, while we still have our individual foundations, why don't we make a bigger coalition to try and make a bigger impact, right? So, we have support from, various doctors and those types of things. So like this last Monday, as part of the coalition, I was in Sacramento, and we got October to be officially Sudden Cardiac Awareness Month in the state of California. So like just, and helping bring awareness, but, talking and sharing our stories. And so I was there with Hector from Eric Prada Save a Life. And so just trying to work together and just promote it. And yeah, it's it's been a kind of a work in progress. We're still trying to figure out exactly, but we've gotten a lot of support from people and organizations and companies that want to support what we're doing. So
Cool. Okay, so question for both of you all. I want you both to have a chance to answer is like, how cool is it to kind of, I'll start. Obviously, this isn't something you ever expected to be doing in your life, but you're able to kind of do this together, which is really cool. And I don't know if each of you could talk to like how cool it is to like work with the other on, you know, this mission that you have for your life.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I think for both of us, it's a way to keep Kyle, you know, still with us. And everything we do, his pictures there, we talk about his story, all of that stuff. So that's really, you know, why it started was we didn't want when his physical body passed away for his spirit to be gone as well. So that's really why we started it. But I think through that's been a huge thing and a really healing for me, and I think my mom as well. But it's also brought us together a lot more. I mean, like I said a few times already, I don't live in the same state as them anymore, so getting together in person isn't, you know, all that frequent. We do our best, which is still pretty good, but we're not together every day. But having the foundation has just been a really, really cool way to stay connected. I call her like all the time. She calls me all the time about foundation stuff or whatever it may be. And then for me as well, working at Defibtech, it's been kind of cool having those worlds collide. There's been, you know, a few times where I'm there, you know, with Defibtech, but our foundation's also there, or you know, vice versa. I joke I need like a shirt that's like half Defibtech, half Allison Taylor Foundation. So it's awesome. You know, there's days where it's a little bit emotional and overwhelming, and you wish you didn't have to do any of this stuff, but we do, and it's great. I really do think that it's brought our whole family closer and kept us connected to, you know, Kyle's friends and brought a whole new family with, you know, everyone in Parent Heart Watch and just a whole new community to our lives, which has been amazing.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So, you know, as Allison mentioned earlier, you know, when we first started it, she didn't really want to be involved, and I understood that, you know, and so it was great when she, you know, kind of eventually got to that point where she wanted to be involved in what we're doing, and to have her, you know, yeah, just be a part of it, and obviously, you know, making important decisions that we make about the foundation, and then to see her get a job at a company, you know, that's doing, you know, saving lives with, you know, AEDs, just as a mom, for me, was so beyond amazing that she wanted to not only just, as you know, volunteering her time on the foundation, but actually make this her career, is awesome. But yeah, we, like Allison said, we talk all the time, either about foundation stuff or, you know, non-foundation stuff, but I do think it's brought us closer. And I think for us, having the foundation has helped us deal with our grief. As like I say, it lets me have a place to put my grief, right? We have found purpose in our grief with the foundation. And so it's great that, you know, Allison and me and my husband, Mike, and, you know, the Kyle's friends that are part of it, it's a way for us to be together as a family, and make a difference in the community. Obviously, there's times where it's bittersweet, right? Like, I'm so glad we're doing this work, but I wish we weren't doing this work, right? Mm-hmm. Or I wish that Kyle could have survived and been a part of what we were doing, right? Because I know that he would have enjoyed what we were doing and wanted to give back. And so that's always hard, but I do, and like Allison said too, like, I truly believe Kyle has helped us to bring, you know, the people, the organizations that we have met along the way, the experiences we've had along the way. He's helping us, right? That's his way to help us on this journey. And so, and the foundation is obviously a huge piece of that.
You guys are awesome. You guys should be so proud. It's so cool. I'm so glad we did this. I've obviously, you know, it's funny, when I first started at Defibtech, you know, you guys were one of the first organizations that, like, part of my role is working with the nonprofits. So I remember like our first conversation because I was like scrambling and I was like connecting to my hotspot in my car, and I would like try to blur my background so you couldn't tell that I was sitting in my car for a meeting.
I couldn't tell, Mike. I couldn't tell.
Like, oh, this isn't gonna look professional at all. So, Yeah, it's so cool to have been able to work with you all, and obviously now I get to work with Allison, more closely as like a coworker, and
Mhm.
yeah, I still can't believe it's been a year. It's crazy.
I know,
And
that's crazy.
going to Allison, I feel like we met, you, me, and Amy met at Parent Heart once. I think you were still like a student.
Yeah, I was.
Right? Oh
Yeah,
my,
I was
yeah, you
thinking-
were like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Which
Yeah.
really wasn't that long ago. I'm saying it like it was that long ago, but yeah, that's insane. Okay, cool. One question that came in here was like, how can I reach out and help, how to contact you all or how to follow you all as well.
Sure. So we're on all the major social media platforms, Kyle J. Taylor Foundation, or you can visit our website, kylejtaylor.org. Or to get a hold of Alice and I, it's just Jennifer at kylejtaylor.org or Allison at kylejtaylor.org. But we're pretty active on all the social media thanks to Allison, who manages our social media.
I figured she might have something to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, we gave her that job. I'm too old to do social media. So yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of us. Or if you go to our website, there's a contact button on there as well that you can reach out to us. So yeah, and we have tons of volunteer opportunities. We're always looking for volunteers to come and help. So
yeah, I can speak to that. If you're in it, like in that area, those screenings are not like simple undertakings. I'm sure you all make it look really easy, but it is not easy. Like you need manpower, people. You need people.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to add? I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot, but did we forget anything?
I don't think so. Allison?
No,
Cool.
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap up then. So I just appreciate you all taking the time to do this. It was so cool to, chat with you both, and obviously I know you both and know the story and everything, but hearing it and talking about it's just inspiring. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having us. We're honored that you wanted to share our story. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, everybody, thanks for joining, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.